Sometimes when you spend a lot of time inside, staring at walls, fearing for the future, you have an idea so dumb, so ridiculous in so many ways that you just have to do it. It like shakes the cobwebs off of your dopamine receptors for the first time in weeks. Yeah, that's what this video is. Today we're going bowling. Hi, hello, I hope you're taking care of yourself. If you're new here, my name is Lexi, and I usually do about one TBR reading list per season. For reasons truly beyond my understanding, I feel like real substantial guilt whenever I don't get to everything that I promised that I would. So just having a smaller amount of books on a list for a longer period of time is just it's more sustainable for me. It's more realistic than the alternative. But this is that video that I do every 3 months, except with a twist, because in a cloud of light, the idea came to me, just truly a gift from above. In the past, I typically read more during the summer than I do at other times of year, so not everything has to be a straight banger. This is a time of year when I can hopefully justify cranking through some of those books on my shelves that I've owned forever and still not read. I just haven't picked them up for whatever reason. And what better way to determine which of those books I select as my victims than through what, for me, is essentially a game of chance. I focus grouped this idea on my Instagram story, and a lot of people asked me if I was any good at bowling, which is, you know, a fair question. And the answer to that is I'm probably better than you might think, but I'm extremely high variance. Lore drop, not to flex, but I actually come from a very long and distinguished line of extremely casual bowlers. Both of my parents were in bowling leagues. My mom goes to what she claims is bowling nationals with my grandma sometimes, but I don't think that could possibly be true. And I personally did not bowl a ton growing up outside of this one season in 7th grade when me and my best friend joined like a middle school organization thing. We had a team and we were like woaded. We were the worst by a lot in the league. But basically what I'm saying is that despite that, bowling is in my blood, okay? It's literally like baked in to my DNA. All of those squiggly bits that make up who I've become, it's in those. It's in my essence, if you will, and I will. And I have matured, I have blossomed into a pretty decent bowler, at least among friends I've taken bowling who haven't been in like 10 years. I typically bowl like 75 to 125, which I am aware I will recognize is a pretty wide range. And that's because I don't actually know how to really aim or get better or improve at all over the course of the last 5 years. I'm exactly the same as I always have been. But most of the time I am able to shoot the ball in a straight line down the lane and hit some pins with it, which usually is enough to be one of the better bowlers among my friends when we go like once every year. And you're probably thinking to yourself at this point, how the fuck is she going to do this? How is this also going to be a TBR video? And you see, outside of bowling, one of my other myriad talents is an overcommitment to the bit and also spreadsheets. So I made a spreadsheet, and as you can see, there are 120 possible books. If you've never bowled before, first of all, you're missing out. But second of all, there are 10 frames, 10 times that you go, which is around as many books as normally go in my TBR every season. So I made 10 categories, and for each category, there are 12 options. One option for each potential score from 1 to 10, one option for a strike, and then one option for the off chance that I throw 2 gutter balls, which is possible, but also unlikely because, again, I can usually shoot it straight down the lane to hit some amount of pins. And because it's unlikely, but also still possible, I have made double gutter in each category some kind of punishment for me. And I say punishment with an asterisk because somebody in the comments is going to be like, why are you making yourself read things that you clearly don't want to read? Which affectionately, with love and light, you must be new to this channel. In general, I read pretty broadly, like I'm not too particular with books or genre. And also, in combination with that, when something is popular enough, no matter how well or how not well I think it'll mesh with my personal reading taste, I can end up being kind of a masochist. I like being a part of the moment. I like having opinions on the discourse. And this entire category is basically just intrusive thoughts that I've had about what I want to read, but I haven't seriously entertained them. And in this case, it's within my power to avoid. I can just not bowl gutters. So that's cool. The strike books, on the other hand, these are things I'm almost certainly going to read anyways. So these are basically free spaces apart from this challenge to put on my official list if I end up being the best that there's ever been. Otherwise, in the middle section that's scored, all of those books are really loosely listed in order-ish of how much I want to read them. And I'm good enough I think that most of the books in this video should be from the top half of the list unless things start to get kind of weird. Anyways, I'm gonna go bowling and I'm gonna film these little vlog inserts of me bowling in real time for each book we talk about in this video. But before we actually embark on this journey together, I just have a quick word from the sponsor of today's video, which is Saily. One really cool thing about both bowling and reading is that you can do both of those things in more parts of the world than you probably think. Apparently people are bowling these days in over 90 countries. But if you accidentally find yourself stranded inside of a brand new place, no service, no sense of direction, desperately in search of the nearest bowling alley or like the nearest bathroom or gas station or like your hotel or something, you would know in that moment what a massive difference it would make for you to have access to your phone. Unlike the typical physical SIM card change that you might be used to from when you've traveled in the past, Saily is completely digital. It just uses some of the technology that's already in your phone for this kind of purpose, and it allows you to travel completely unimpeded. Even if you're going to multiple countries within their zone, you don't have to like switch out your SIM card every single time you cross a border. And with over 200 countries serviced within their zone, over twice as many, by the way, compared to the 90 from earlier that have bowling alleys, basically you have a lot of freedom in your itinerary when you're using an eSIM that allows you to seamlessly hop from place to place like that. And you won't end up stranded or confused or even stuck in one of those really, really long and also kind of overpriced lines at the airport to figure out your service when you land. You can avoid that. You have that power. So if you're interested, or if you just have a trip coming up on your horizon, I strongly recommend checking out Saily. It's really easy to set up. You just go and download it from the App Store. You can go in and check out all of the different potential plans and countries that they service. And you can even get 15% off your first purchase with the code NEWLYNOVA, or if you click the link in my description. Thank you so much to Saily for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate it. Let's get back to it. It's gonna be really unfortunate when I just go and bowl all strikes and the TBR is just, it's really predictable. It's hard work being an athlete. I arrive at the bowling alley with a freshly burning hope for my future that I maybe have not felt since I was a small child, and it's empty because I'm not a psychopath, okay? I'm not going to film myself bowling in public at peak time. We went at like 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. Almost nobody was there. It was great. There was this neat display that featured some truly fascinating moments in both local and national bowling history, including this bowling ball, which was allegedly made out of a toilet seat, this bowling ball, which was owned by a guy who won a bunch of competitions by like soaking it in cleaning liquid before he would go, which I have no idea how that was competition legal, but like, what do I know? I'm not an expert. And then my personal favorite, this bowling ball that apparently was almost lost in a fire that happened at this very bowling alley until its owner ran into the wreck and literally dug it out of 5 feet of ashes. So that way he would be able to salvage some part of it, which is just a level of commitment that I hope to one day achieve with anything in my life. But whatever, we spawn into the bowling alley, I get my kicks, I go on a quest to find my ideal weights bowling ball. It's an 11, kill me. Dude, where are they hiding the number on this? It's a 7? No. But apparently in this bowling alley, 10-pound balls only exist in the large variety for people who have hands the size of like the moon. And that's not me, so I have to settle for a 9-pound ball instead. I will be blaming everything that happens in this video on that fact. We're doing a pivot. I'm doing a 9. Yeah, one of these. Expert bowlers need 2 at all times. You would know this if you were an expert bowler like me. I do some casual aura farming, and by that I mean I have a warm-up game just to test the waters, get the blood flowing, you know how it is. If that were a 10-pound ball, they would all be down. Very auspicious beginning. And immediately, in like frame 2 of the first round, we notice a dark omen. During the warm-up game, it didn't put down the 10th pin. So, good start. But we push on. I'm telling you right now, if I had a 10-pound ball, it would be over. Look at the witches up there. So, okay, we just finished the warm-up game. I got a 94. I assure you that I have before gotten strikes. It is in fact possible. And also, while we're here, before we get started with the actual game, I do have 2 casualties from my spring TBR that I don't have to bowl for. I just have to read them. A Million Junes by Emily Henry, and then Thick by Tracy McMillan Cottom. Everything else for spring I got through, including the Titan House of Leaves, which more on that in my eventual bi-monthly wrap-up. But anyways, this is pretty standard for me. Usually out of about 10 to 12, there are always a couple that end up getting bounced into my next TBR. And if you want to know what either of these are about, you can check out the previous video. But if I don't read them, you can bowl down my house, okay? You can start throwing bowling balls through my car windows, and I would deserve it. But those books aside, they've already qualified. Let's start with the actual bowling. The first category that we have is My Fantasy is a Perfect 300. Yeah, all of these are going to be bad bowling jokes. These are all adult fantasy novels, and these really run the gamut between, at the top, we have The Tainted Cup, which is a mystery fantasy vibe book that I've wanted to read since it was released. And yeah, it's been a year and the sequel's already out, but I'm a mercurial soul, okay? After that, we have, in order, The Sword of Kaigen, Kindred, Daughter of the Moon Goddess, The Unmaking of June Pharaoh, Masters of Death, The Bone Shard Daughter, The Priory of the Orange Tree, The Cartographers, The Hurricane Wars, The Games Gods Play, and then at the bottom we have When the Moon Hatched, which I cannot emphasize to you enough is a tome. It's like 600 pages. It was this really big TikTok romantasy last year, and I probably would have read it by now just to see what all of the hype was about if it wasn't 600 pages. But it is, and that's the fate that I'm hoping to avoid. And before we actually bowl for this, I also just really want to drive home with this first category. Almost all of the books in this video, they're all books that I own. This is not like a standard distribution situation, okay? Outside of the gutters and maybe the ones, all of these other books are only in my library because at one point I was really excited to read them. So something getting like a 3 or a 4 doesn't mean that I think it's going to be bad. It just means that right now, in this moment, I want to read it less than the books that are higher on these lists. But anyways, after some deep and meditative breaths to really center myself, it's not the best start that I could have possibly had. Lock it. Lock the fuck in. Okay, not bad. 6 is Masters of Death by Olive Blake. And keep in mind, with all of the summaries in this video, I haven't read these books. I don't know what the fuck they're actually about. I just know what I've heard that they're about and what I can learn from the blurb. I don't claim to be perfectly accurate with any of these synopses. This will be, I think, my third Olive Blake book. I've read The Atlas 6, and then I read One for My Enemy. And both of them I had extremely mixed feelings on. One for My Enemy, especially, it was just like a constant swing and a miss for me. But this one definitely seems different from the other ones that I've read. From what I can tell, this book is about a girl who is also a vampire, who is also a real estate agent that is trying to sell a house. And the problem with that is the house is haunted. And until the ghost who is haunting the house can solve his own murder, can figure out like how and why he died, he will continue haunting this house and presumably decreasing its property value. So in order to solve this, the vampire teams up with this kind of sham medium who hopefully can like talk with the spirit and help figure things out. I imagine that exorcising this ghost comes with some kind of mystery, perhaps even a quest that the two of them could go on together. I don't know if this is a romance, but I kind of hope it is. I think it would be fun. I really don't know anything about this book. I will say one thing about Olive Blake, she is extremely creative. The 2 books that I've read by her, although they are not without flaws, although they are not without a failure to completely flesh out all of her creative ideas, they both were really unique. So I'm intrigued to see what she does with this sort of haunted house situation. The next category is affectionately titled My Fantasy Has Always Been a Perfect 300 Ever Since I Was a Small and Nimble Child. This is, you guessed it, young adult fantasy. I would try to like encourage you by saying that the other bits for the categories are funnier, but honestly they're not. Anyways, here we have from top to bottom Dark Rise, which is my next pick for like big young adult series that I think I'll really love. Little Thieves, To Shape a Dragon's Breath, Don't Let the Forest In, The Maid and the Crocodile, The Gilded Ones, Curious Tides, This Woven Kingdom, Ace of Shades, Fable, The Shadows Between Us, and then at the bottom we have Belladonna, which is a young adult book that I have avoided despite its immense popularity, just because I heard somewhere that it was a romance between the concept of death and a girl that he has allegedly known since she was like 2 months old, since she was an infant. So that's fun. This is young adult fantasy. Okay. Is this the winner cam? Is this the you've succeeded cam? You know, it feels really good. Please, no questions, no questions. I don't talk to the press. 10 is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Let's go. One thing about me is I am a slut for fairy tale retellings, especially dark, grim fairy tale retellings. I feel like I've nurtured a lifelong love for the fractured fairy tale, for like the whimsical and also dark at the same time. And I have heard this described as a fantasy retelling of a classic fairy tale called The Goose Girl, which, if you never heard it or if you need a refresher, it's a fairy tale where the maid of a princess ends up like getting her into a corner and stealing her identity. And the princess is relegated to just being a basic servant at this new kingdom that they end up going to. And the maid, meanwhile, is now the princess, and she like marries into this new kingdom in the original princess's place. A bunch of other things happen that honestly I don't really remember, but eventually the maid is caught and like forced to answer for her crimes in the kind of deranged and extremely gruesome ways that fairy tale villains are typically forced to answer for their crimes in classic fairy tales. But that's the gist. And this book is a retelling of that, but it's from the perspective not of the princess, but of the maid, of the villain in the story. And I love that premise. I think it sounds so interesting. I've been waiting for the series to be officially all out before I started the first one, just in case I end up really, really loving it and just blasting through it. But as of recently, it's finally done. So this is a massive W. It's a cool addition to the list. Third category, we have Sometimes You're the Strike, Sometimes You're the 7-10 Split. And these are contemporary and literary fiction books that have the potential to be extremely emotionally volatile. I love a good cry. I love a single tear rolling down the cheek at the emotional climax of a good book. And surprising nobody, I have a lot in the tank on the shelves for that category. So that's what these are. We have on the top, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, yet another book I do sincerely want to read, even though I feel like I've been saying that for like 2 years. Lie With Me, Beautiful Country, The Wedding People, The Lion Women of Tehran, Interesting Facts About Space, Blue Sisters, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Cleopatra and Frankenstein, The Way I Used to Be, If He Had Been With Me, and then the extremely cursed A Little Life, which I know this is a controversial statement since a lot of people do genuinely love this book, but just based on what I have since learned about this author and her opinions and this book and how it handles some of its serious themes, it just doesn't sound responsible. It sounds kind of bonkers, actually. It just feels like it's probably going to be extremely emotionally manipulative to me. Yet another case though, where I honestly might still have read it anyways because I have no natural inclination towards self-preservation, if not for the fact that it's also 1,000,000 pages long. And for what? And for what? I think if I have to read A Little Life in 2025, I will in fact walk into the sea. Take those. We so take those. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm nervous. Stop it. Stop filming. A 4 in sad books is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This was another book that was just all over the internet like 1 or 2 years ago. And a big reason for that, I think, is the premise of this book is just a fascinating thought experiment. The book is broken up into these little novellas, and this is a whole series, by the way. And all of these stories follow a different character who ends up coming across this coffee shop, except it's a magical coffee shop. And if you go inside and you buy a coffee, you can essentially travel through time and have that coffee with somebody from your past who maybe you broke up with, maybe it's a late relative, maybe it's a long lost friend from your childhood, but no matter who it is, you can sit there, you can have a conversation with them, but you have to leave before the coffee gets cold. The conversation has to end at that point, and you just go back to the way that your life was before any of this ever happens. Obviously, in a lot of ways, I think this book is bait. It's going to be sad. It's going to be kind of miserable watching people talk to their dead loved ones. Like, you know that's coming. You know that that's going to be in here, but it's a really neat premise. It's a really interesting thought experiment. And I mean, like, was it interesting enough to justify like 5 books in the series or however many there are? That I can't tell you. I haven't even read book 1, but I've heard good things. I mean, this is yet another book. Sometimes things go viral on TikTok and I'm kind of surprised. And I do feel that way about this book. I mean, less so than I do about some other stories, just because again, I think that this has like a natural self-insert, kind of what would you do in this situation sort of marketing to it. But I tend to have good luck with that variety of popular books. So not a bad addition. There are definitely some worse things I could have gotten from this category. But speaking of TikTok, next up we have a category called Games on Phone While Waiting to Bowl, and these are the quintessentially TikTok mega viral books. Basically, my dark curiosities as a category, and here we range from Heartless Hunter at the top, which is a fun young adult story, Bridge Kingdom from like multiple years ago, but it was really big on TikTok, Magnolia Parks, Neon Gods, Lights Out, Silver Elite, Quicksilver, Trial of the Sun Queen, Metal Slinger, The Wrong Pucking Number, Zodiac Academy, and then at the bottom, oh god, we have The Ritual, which the way that I felt before I read Credence, that's how I feel about this book. That's the vibe that I get from what I have heard about it, which is definitely enough good things to kind of concern you, but also a lot of bad things. But I just haven't been strong enough to do that again to myself. A wide range of potential content here. So close. I feel like I need to eat more Wheaties, dude. I can't keep blaming things on not having a 10-pound ball. That's not gonna be it. That's not gonna be it. It's all right. Okay, this one's kind of fun. Magnolia Parks. The people have been waiting for Magnolia Parks. What is there to say about Magnolia Parks other than that it has a massive cult following on social media? Magnolia Parks is about a girl named, you guessed it, Magnolia Parks, and she is in this long-term on-again, off-again relationship with this guy who is unironically named BJ. Genuinely embarrassing for him. He would not have survived in American public school education. And despite the fact that Magnolia and BJ just, sorry, BJ, dude, what is going on? Despite the fact that they just constantly cheat on each other over and over and over again, there is a substantial part of the internet that just thinks that they're soulmates and that they're meant to be if they can just get through all of it or whatever. I don't know. Basically, the book is just mess. It's like mess and mess and mess on top of mess on top of absolute natural disasters. It's just supposed to be juicy. It's supposed to be juicy beyond belief. I honestly don't know what to expect from it other than an amount of interpersonal drama that I think will send me into an early grave. Next up, we have Bowling for Knowledge. This is nonfiction. One of my goals generally for the rest of the year is to get back into reading a little bit more nonfiction, and I have quite the backlog. I used to read a lot more of it than I do now. We range from Everything is Tuberculosis, which is the new John Green book, a very important man from my formative years. Then we have Evicted, The Hot Zone, The Color of Law, The Devil in the White City, Stamped from the Beginning, The Emperor of Maladies, A Short History of Nearly Everything, A Higher Loyalty, Killers of the Flower Moon, Quiet, and then at the bottom, I picked a book called The Let Them Theory, which my own mother softly recommended to me as a book that a lot of her coworkers were enjoying. So you can probably imagine why this is in the punishment tier. That was Bowling for Knowledge, actually, and an 8 is The Color of Law. Also, do not know the author for that off the top of my head, but it's in my library. This is a really good pick. I'm really excited for this one, even though it's like a massive tonal divergence from the rest of this video. This is a book that has been on my radar for a minute now, that's about the history of continued racial segregation in cities, even post-Reconstruction and post-Brown v. Board, much later. Just how cities have been and continue to be planned and zoned to uphold these invisible systems of prejudice and of segregation. Even now, even when I feel like there is, unfortunately, like a substantial faction of this country, especially of white areas in this country, who genuinely think, because they learned in 10th grade history that segregation is over, they genuinely think that like everything is equitable now. No. Sorry. And this book looks at that and at the way that policymakers and city planners, what they've called things has changed over time. Like it's different, but the result is the same. It's still not equitable. It still leads to whole communities, almost always Black and brown communities, just getting repeatedly fucked over through history by bureaucratic decisions. Obviously, this book is heavy. It's not the light summer read that you will see elsewhere in this video, but I think that reading things like this that are of this nature, especially if you're an American and you feel really powerless a lot of the time to do anything about some of the frankly dystopian shit that is happening with like the ICE raids and other things going on in this country right now, books can at least arm you with knowledge that you might not get from a public education in America. And knowledge is really, really important. And it's the one thing that is absolutely within your control wherever you are to improve. A book like this is just one singular step towards that. And I've heard really good things about this one specifically. Okay, next up we have a category titled Nothing More Thrilling Than Bowling. Am I right? These are thrillers, obviously. And these range from All the Colors of the Dark, which I will say, I mean, my thriller radar is honestly not super developed, but I feel like I've heard a lot of good things about this book, even though I don't remember any of them specifically, and I love a good thriller during the summer. We have The God of the Woods, The Return of Ellie Black, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, My Sister the Serial Killer, Listen for the Lie, One Perfect Couple, Behind Closed Doors, Who is Maud Dixon, The Midnight Feast, and then the last two books at the bottom are by my enemy, Riley Sager. We have The Only One Left, and then The House Across the Lake. When it comes to thrillers, there's nobody that I feel promises more and delivers less than this man. I kind of liked one book by him, but other than that, he's my enemy. Final Girls still makes me angry to this day. This is a close game right now between me and the camera. The camera's bowling quite well, considering it doesn't have arms or legs. I'm actually normally better than this, maybe. At least I can be better than this. I'm high enough variance where sometimes, stop shaking. Stop that. Could someone who's bad do that? Could a bad bowler pick up that spare? Okay, 10 in thriller is The God of the Woods. That's a W. I've heard that book is really good. This is a thriller that, by my understanding, kind of verges on being more so literary suspense that deals with this family in the 1970s. And when the daughter of this family is at a camp one summer, she goes missing. And that would already be kind of a big enough bummer for the family. But it turns out that that girl's older brother also disappeared, never to be seen again, 14 years prior. And since their daughter is 13, this must have just been the kid that they had like right after he disappeared. But the vibe of this book, from what I can tell, is that on one hand, you're dealing with all of this suspense around the search to find this little girl before something horrible happens to her. But also, because of the similar disappearance that happened 14 years ago, you're also unspooling all of the different threads that tie together this family. You're learning all of their secrets. You're picking through all of their like messy relationships. I'm about to say something that could very well be wrong. Again, I have not read this book, so I don't really know anything, but the reason why I wanted to read this so badly is because one of my guilty pleasures is what I like to call divorced mom beach reads. I love a contemporary fiction book that's just like, oh no, my husband's left me for his childhood best friend and now I'm on the beach with a bunch of wine and the like gardener boy that I would make eye contact with across the field when I was 15, and also my first love from college is here at the same time. What if I dated them both and maybe found myself along the way? Like that kind of shit, low-key, is very fun at exactly this time of year for me, and this gives a much more thrillery, suspensey version of that kind of feeling. So looking forward to this one for sure. Okay, next up we have XXX. In bowling, obviously. And these are my romances. I feel like it's very important to read at least a couple of romances every summer. And I am getting the Allie Hazelwood itch. I fear hearing everybody talk about her right now. I haven't read one of her books in a while, and I love them. I save them for a rainy day, and we've had some rainy days recently. At the top of the list, we have Deep End, which I still haven't read, but I've heard rumors is finally out without the sprayed edges. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I've heard. It gives me hope. And then we have Problematic Summer Romance, Great Big Beautiful Life, the new Emily Henry, Not in Love, Here We Go Again, Honey and Spice, Can't Get Enough, Delilah Green Doesn't Care, Love Lettering, Well Met, Addicted to You, and then at the bottom we have Punk 57, which is a bully romance by Penelope Douglas. Allie Hazelwood is like the wholesome itch. This is the itch of darkness. This is the itch of despair, and it's small, but every day it gnaws at me. It's there. Next, I think, is romance. Dude, do it for Allie Hazelwood.
Stay away from that old Bible man. Don't you take that fruit he's holding in his hand. Just one bite.
We can cut that. Oh no, we lost the footage.
If you hang around that old Bible man, alright. You'll be
Marked safe.
troubled.
8 in romance, we get Not in Love, which is actually Allie Hazelwood. The way that this woman writes yearning and these just like truly deeply obsessed, deeply pathetic men, it just works really well for me. It's like my favorite kind of cotton candy romance. And even though I'm comparatively, I think, more interested in reading her newest release, Problematic Summer Romance, it's probably better that I got this one first, considering I do think that they are interconnected standalones. Honest to God, I don't know what this is about. I need to like read the back. That's how much of an auto by author Allie Hazelwood of all people has become for me. Okay, fascinating. So you have these two main characters who work for two companies. One of the companies is like a cute little indie biotech food service startup. It's low-key giving You've Got Mail, honestly, because the other main character partially owns this company that's trying to do a hostile takeover on this cute little indie biotech startup. And you might think to yourself, being on opposite sides here, wouldn't that kind of make them enemies? Wouldn't that make them a little bit antagonistic towards the other person, even if not like full blood-sworn enemies? And I would say it sounds like you're onto something. It sounds like you might be right. Basically, they have an affair during this entire thing, even though they're not supposed to do that. Probably it has other plot as well, but what I do know is how people reacted to this book, which I do remember being quite mixed. I know that this is supposed to be tonally a little bit more serious than the other Allie Hazelwood books that I've read, and I know that she's saying that this isn't a rom-com, and I'm also excited to see like what other range that she might have as an author, but I'm still definitely holding out that this will be a lot of fun. Next up, we have the kind of guy to bring his own bowling ball. And before I made everything bowling themed, this category was called fuck ass special editions. I subscribed to a bunch of book boxes extremely opportunistically ahead of the new R.F. Kuang release. And also, honestly, as somebody who reads a lot of popular fantasy, it's just nice sometimes to have instant access with almost no effort beyond the wounds that it inflicts to my bank account to having a lot of these fun editions of the big releases that come out every year, a lot of which are accounted for inside of these boxes. But it turns out that I'm kind of bad at like looking at the spoilers and then using my skips appropriately, so they've kind of amassed. And the books in this category range from The Raven Scholar at the top, solely because a good friend of mine, Allie, really likes this book, and I cyberstalk her religiously because we have generally similar taste in fantasy, and she loves this. Followed by This Monster of Mine, Immortal, Gifted and Talented, Sorcery and Small Magics, A Sorceress Comes to Call, The Last Hour Between Worlds, Watermoon, The Teller of Small Fortunes, The Scorpion and the Night Blossom, Cruel is the Light, and then at the bottom we have Blood of Hercules, which I have a screenshot somewhere on my phone of my best friend sending me the blurb for this book when it was announced, because it was that ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, this was, I fear, a forgotten skip.
So don't you hang around that viper in the night. Ah, you'll be high. You take one hit and you'll be
Go for next.
sleeping with the band. When you hang around that old viper man.
No camera! Cut the tapes, cut the tapes! Double gutter. Double gutter in special editions. No, dude. It's Blood of Hercules. Out of the things that I could have been forced to read by getting a double gutter ball, this wasn't the worst one, but it also wasn't the best one. Let me just find what I remember. Okay, yes, this is what I was looking for, and I'm just gonna read this to you in lieu of trying to do this justice by describing it myself. I'm just a girl, and it turns out I'm Hercules. I'm struggling to survive in a Titan-infested world where Spartans, immortals from 12 royal families who have godlike powers and obscene wealth, rule over all. A shy, stammering foster child with nothing. I keep my head down, cover my scars, and focus on excelling in school. Low-key me. At least, I try to. Then it happens. My blood test reveals I'm part of the powerful elite. I'm one of them, a Spartan. Forced to attend the Spartan War Academy, I undergo the most harrowing test of all time to see if I have what it takes to be an immortal. There's just a few problems. Achilles and Patro are my scary mentors. Charon, the ferryman of death, and Augustus, the son of war, are my terrifying professors. Also, I'm pretty sure someone's stalking me everywhere I go, or my sanity's slipping. I have a bad feeling both are true. I'm surrounded by villains, and they're smothering me with their hate, obsession, and dark possessiveness. Too bad for them, they have no clue just who they're messing with. This is also like a dark romance, apparently, by the way. I have no idea who the love interest is. All I know is that she's just a girl, and she's also Hercules. Oh, also, oh God. Also, I didn't realize, but I only read the first person blurb when this book was being marketed to me, but apparently the main character's name is Alexis, and my name is Alexis. So that's cool, that'll be fun. Wow, this will be a treat, great. After that gem, we have a category called Bold of You to Imagine I Would Leave After Only 9 Frames, because apparently I've amassed so many uncompleted series at this point that I can make an entire category out of them, which honestly is embarrassing. Like, this didn't used to be how I was at all. There was a time in my life when I would not be able to rest until I cranked through a series that I started. Even if the series was not particularly good, I would still just have to finish it instantly. But I don't know, I'm older now, I'm more jaded. Speaking of jade, at the top we have Jade Legacy, which is the 3rd book in the Jade City series. And I know I said this a couple of months ago, but it's still true. The first truly free weekend that I get when I'm not doing something else, I will be reading this book. Like, I want to give it my full and undivided attention, because whether it wins or not, this series fucks if you're looking for some very machinations and like relationships heavy political fantasy in a unique setting. Strongly recommend. It's really, really good. Other than that, on the list, we have Muse of Nightmares, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, A Prayer for the Crown Shy, Vengeful, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, The Last Graduate, All of Our Demise, King of Scars, The Final Gambit, The Reaper, and then at the bottom we have Nightbane, the next Lightlark book, which I cannot emphasize to you enough how ridiculous I found so much of the first book of that series, so that's what we're playing for. I thought that was it. I feel like I'm fucking Pythagoras right now, trying to find the right angle on these pins. It's not bad. See, it looks like I decided to go for one there, but the secret is I was actually going for the other pin entirely to hit it into the pin that I ended up hitting instead. So, okay, this is continuing a series. What is 9? 9 is Emily Wilde. Let's go. Okay, that's actually really nice. Pretty much the entire top half of this category would have been really nice. I'm looking at this book right now with its kind of ridiculous deckled edges, although I am a deckled edge defender, and it's making me want to reread the original. And I know that the entire series is out now, so this is like actually a really good time to finally get through this. But if you don't know anything about Emily Wilde, this series is about a girl who is a professor at a university that is like obsessively into her area of study. And her area of study is fairies. It's folklore. The book takes place in what is a high fantasy world, but it very much gives a version of 1800s Earth where for the most part it's pretty similar, except all of the folk tales, all of like the folklore creatures that different cultures believe in, they all exist. And Emily's entire job is to go and study them, and she's chronicling them into this massive encyclopedia that she's making. That book, at least, takes place in this like wintry village that she goes to try to finish out the final pages of her encyclopedia, except somebody follows her, and that somebody is the most pathetic, derogatory man alive. His name is Wendell. He's also a professor. He also publishes research, but he like makes all of his grad students wait on him hand and foot. He's basically just a lazy sack of shit. But unfortunately for both Emily and me, he's also an extremely charming lazy sack of shit who has this massive amount of appreciation and care for Emily's agency and her abilities and her intellect. And Wendell goes, I think, ostensibly to help Emily. I think that's what he says. And Emily would usually not entertain this at all, except for the fact that she's also like 99% sure that Wendell himself is a fairy. Like, he's not a person. And obviously it's really useful when you're studying fairies to have an actual fairy around that you can like work with and ask questions to. So that's what she does. And the book is about their misadventures together. I've seen some people describe it as a cozy fantasy romance, which I don't think is exactly true. Like, it definitely has kind of a darkness to it and to what happens that personally I really liked. And low-key, I do kind of find cozy because my brain is broken. But like, there is violence. Bad things do happen inside of that book. And the fairy mythology that the author uses definitely skews more towards beings of chaos who sometimes do bad things for fun, you know? Anyways, I liked that book a lot. I think I gave it 4 stars. And if I remember correctly, it was like a year ago, but I think part of that was because it had kind of a slow start. So I could see the rest of this series really, really working for me now that I'm bought into the world and bought into the characters. And I'm just really excited to finally have a little bit of a push to keep going with it. But finally, our final category we have has won something, like I have won at bowling. These are all books that have won some kind of award, some of them more prestigious than others, but all of them awards. And at the top, we have Hugo Award-winning novella, All Systems Red, which is the first Murderbot book. That's a series I've been meaning to start forever. Followed by Nettle and Bone, Interior Chinatown, The City We Became, James, She Who Became the Sun, The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, Wayward, Less, A Memory Called Empire, Severance, and then down at the bottom, we have Confess by Colleen Hoover, which is the winner of the 2015 Best Romance category in the Goodreads Choice Awards. Quite the spread. This is for Glory.
Strike to claim it. A strike to claim it. And he got it!
Let's go, dude! Are you kidding me? That's right! Who do you think you are? I don't actually have anything prepared for having additional frames, so what we're gonna do, I'm going to bowl again, and then we will roll like a random number generator, and based on the score, I'll select from a category, okay? Yeah, okay, cool. I take it back. I take it back. I take it back. We're not doing that. Do I go again? No, dude. No, dude. That's how a strike works? Okay. We'll do one more. We'll do one more book. Unless this is another gutter upon which we are not doing one more book. It's really hard to be this good at bowling. It's like really difficult, actually, to just like contain this much skill, you know? Okay, and the last frame, which this was a disaster. Starting off, we have All Systems Red is the strike, which is really exciting. I'm glad I got at least one. If it's not obvious in the clips, I had no idea what was going on when like I got to go again after I guttered, but because I am honorable and also a glutton for punishment, and I had already resigned myself to having to read a gutter ball book, I kept it. And we're also doing another 9, and there are just going to be 2 more bonus books on this TBR that I did not account for when I was planning this video. But before I show you the footage of me rolling for those books, first let's talk about All Systems Red, the actual book that I was supposed to get from this frame. The Murderbot series has quite a few books. I think it's like 7 or 8, but they're all novellas, so it's shorter than it probably seems. And they take place in this far off future where like people go to other planets and mine for resources, accompanied by security robots. And there's a mission that's happening, except the twist is that that mission's security robot has like accidentally achieved awareness. Like it knows what's going on around it in a way that it absolutely should not. And from what I have seen, Murderbot, the security bot, it's kind of a diva. It kind of wants to watch TV and vibe and not have to deal with anybody's bullshit. But instead of just getting to like sit there and watch soap operas and figure out what it is and what its purpose is continuously, it is pulled instead into this array of different adventures that it has to do to like protect people or whatever. Honestly, a lot of that plot description is pretty hazy to me. Really what I know is that Murderbot, the character, I think I will find fascinating. And I've wanted to read this forever. So that's why it was at the top of the list for me. It's really cool, actually, that this is the one that ends up being selected. Anyways, running back into the bonus books. Okay, first of all, we're gonna generate the 9 out of 10 because I feel like that's probably a little bit less exciting for you guys. 7. I don't actually know what that is. Oh, it's romance. That's good. That's Emily Henry. Great Big Beautiful Life. I feel like I'm getting better and better about reading Emily Henry books close to release. Like I started off really bad with Happy Place. I think I read that a year and a half after it came out, after putting it off that entire time despite liking her other books. And then Funny Story, I think I read 6 months after the fact, and this one only came out maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I don't really know. If I was going to hit the top of that romance list without like magically rolling another Ali Hazelwood book, I'm glad that it was this one because I do like being a part of the conversation, and I know that this has received some mixed reviews ever since it came out. Mostly I've heard that the romance portion of this book is not as strong and like people are having this genuinely brain-melting conversation competition about whether Emily Henry is a romance author, which, dude, shut up. Like, go outside, read contemporary fiction, and then read Emily Henry, and you'll see why she's obviously a romance author. But that's beside the point. Anyways, the premise of this book, if you don't know it, is it follows a girl named Alice who ends up getting her big break as an author when she's invited to potentially write the biography of another, I think, really famous writer. Okay, no, she's not a famous writer. She's like an old woman who has had this insanely dramatic life, whatever. She's invited to potentially write that person's biography, except the person who invited her to write the biography also invited somebody else, and the two of them are going to compete to see who ultimately will win the right to tell this old woman's story. And obviously, the other person who was invited to do this is this extremely hot and brooding man who has reasons of his own to want to win this competition. I love Emily Henry. I think that she's the real deal. Really, the only one of her books that didn't particularly work for me was Happy Place. So I'm not too concerned about the mixed reviews that I've seen for this. I think that I'll probably still at least like it, even if it's not my favorite. But it might be. I mean, I think that the premise is really interesting. There's definitely more of like a plot going on than you see in most of the Emily Henry books that are much more about the relationship building between the characters, even if the premises are interesting hooks. This is like a real competition. It's like a real secondary character whose life is probably extremely integral to this story. So I'm intrigued to see what our girl Emily does with this one. Okay, the 0, 1. It's a 1. I know what that is, but I need to check just to be sure. It's it's When the Moon Hatched. What is When the Moon Hatched? Honestly, great question. Really the main thing I feel like I know about it is that it's really small, feral, knife-wielding girl, extremely large, hulking fantasy man. Viscerally, the main thing I remember when I think of this book is the special edition that was released a little while ago, that on the end papers, there were pictures like artistically rendered of the couple, and genuinely, she is like half this man's size. It's comical. I'll put it on the screen. I remember people in the comments are like, dude, it's giving father-daughter dance, and that just really, it's gonna be fine. It's going to be fine. What is this book about? Great question. To my knowledge, there's a girl who is a part of this like rebel group in a fantasy world. Somehow, some way, while doing her role as like dagger of the rebellion, you know, she ends up getting caught and imprisoned until, for reasons truly beyond my comprehension, this man, who I think at this point is the king, although I don't think he's from the same rebel group as she was, he ends up finding the main character in this prison and like rescuing her, question mark, but I also think it's enemies to lovers, so maybe their vibe is worse than that at the beginning of this story. I'm not sure. It's also 600 to 700 pages, so that's cool. That's a fun role for me for my future, but that's the set. That's what we got. Those are the, I think, 12 books I will be reading this summer. Please do let me know if you liked this format or if you thought it was like incredibly dumb. Honestly, I still don't know how I feel, and I've like filmed this entire video. But some ideas you just have to bring to life. Like, you're not really given a choice. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you. Let me know if you've read anything in this video, although please don't spoil it for me, or I will egg your house. Let me know what you are looking forward to this summer. That would be pretty cool. I think that's it. Okay, I'm gonna leave. I don't have anything else to say. Bye.